Welcome to the Unveiled Epic Echoes channel. Today, we're diving deep into an unexplored historical mystery. The year was 1890, though the story truly begins long before that, in the slow rhythm of horse hooves on dirt roads and the careful scratching of pens across ledgers, when counting people was less about numbers and more about knowing your neighbors. And yet something strange settled over that census year like a soft fog that no one noticed at first. Because America was busy growing, railroads stretching like veins, cities humming, frontiers folding into memory. And it wasn't until decades later that archivists would realize thousands of names were missing, not miscounted or misspelled, but absent, as if entire communities had stepped sideways out of the record. And our way into this mystery drifts through the life of Hale, a junior clerk at the census office in Washington, D.C., a woman with a steady hand, a fondness for chamomile tea, and a quiet curiosity she rarely indulged. Until one evening, as gas lamps flickered and the building settled into its nighttime creaks, she noticed a discrepancy between county tallies from rural Appalachia, numbers that refused to reconcile no matter how carefully she added them. Households referenced in earlier surveys that simply vanished, and at first she assumed clerical error, the kind that happens when ink fades and handwriting slants. But the deeper she looked, the stranger it became, because the missing names followed patterns. Clustered around river valleys, ancient trails, places where indigenous stories once spoke of thin boundaries between worlds, sought out Elias, an older statistician rumored to know the archives the way some men know scripture. And over shared silence and steaming cups, he told her in a low voice that this was not the first time, that similar gaps appeared in the 1830 and 1840 counts, always quietly corrected, always explained away, but never truly resolved. And he showed her a locked drawer containing hand-drawn maps far older than the nation itself, maps from earlier sources, showing settlements predating colonial records, marked not as towns but as gathering hollows, places where people met during certain cycles. And the word cycle echoed in his mind as she returned home each night dreaming of footsteps fading into mist. The investigation deepened when traced the missing census routes and realized many enumerators had noted odd impressions in their margins. Comments about empty houses still warm, meals left untouched, clocks ticking in abandoned rooms, and one even wrote of hearing singing from the woods though no one answered his calls. These were dismissed by supervisors as fatigue, but felt a calm certainty growing, the kind that arrives not with fear but with recognition. And she traveled on her own dime to one of the affected regions, where the mountains rose like patient elders and the air felt layered with time. There she met two rivers. An elderly woman whose family had avoided census takers for generations spoke gently of an old agreement, passed down in whispers, about people who did not belong fully to the counted world. Descendants of ancient inhabitants who learned how to step out of recorded time during periods of upheaval, taught long ago by travelers who understood the rhythms of earth and sky, and when wars, plagues, or great changes loomed. These communities into hidden valleys and subterranean chambers first carved in antiquity, places aligned with solstices and water tables, places that confused compasses and blurred memory. Said the government men came every few decades asking questions, writing names, but some names were never meant to stay on paper. And the census year of 1890 coincided with a great turning, the closing of the frontier, the industrial surge, a shift loud enough to trigger the old retreat. Returned to Washington carrying more questions than proof. Yet when she presented her findings, Elias surprised her by nodding, revealing that the Census Bureau itself had inherited fragments of ancient knowledge through unlikely channels, translated tablets acquired by early explorers, suggesting that civilizations rise and stabilize only when populations are allowed periods of invisibility, unmeasured, unpressured, and the missing thousands were not lost, but resting outside the margins of history. The climax of its journey came when a fire swept through the census storage building in 1921, destroying vast records including much of the 1890 census. Officially blamed for the gap, scholars would later lament, but knew the fire was less accident than erasure, a final closing of the ledger. And in her final years, she wrote a private account, sealed and donated anonymously, suggesting that history's truest record includes what is intentionally left blank. That survival sometimes requires stepping away from the count. And as the years passed and modern researchers puzzled over the missing thousands, few sensed the deeper calm beneath the mystery, that those people returned when the world softened, their descendants counted again under new names, the cycle continuing. And now as the story slows and the mind drifts like a lantern-lit river, the census year with missing thousands becomes less a tale of loss and more a lullaby of patience, reminding us that not everything valuable must be measured, that some truths live best in quiet spaces between numbers, and that history, like sleep, sometimes needs us to let go before it can begin again. This mysterious journey ends here, but stay tuned for more untold stories in our next video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any new stories. Thank you, and see you again.